My name is Raven, professional wrestling superstar, and you're watching The Wrestling Collectors. Excited to see Oscar and Ray's collection? You should be. Quote the Raven, nevermore.
For 5 years, I've run WrestlingForSale.com, the world's first wrestling merchandise marketplace. I've bought and sold close to 10,000 vintage wrestling collectibles. Along the way, I've had the privilege of meeting some of the world's most passionate collectors. Call them psychos, call them hoarders. Whatever you call them, join me as I explore their never-before-seen piles of gold. These historians and wrestling archivists all strive for one thing, the Holy Grail. I'm your host, Ted Hirsch, and this is The Wrestling Collectors. Alright, on this week's episode of The Wrestling Collectors, we're getting extreme. First up, we have Ray, who's one of the biggest ECW collectors in the world, and also the biggest fan of Raven.
I collect ECW, so it's my favorite promotion by a very wide margin. It was something that kind of came along in my life at the right time. Like, I'm getting to be in my late 30s now, and so I was 14, 15, 16 years old when I was first exposed to ECW. And I was heavy into music, grunge and alternative and metal and that type of stuff. And ECW was basically like the wrestling version of that. So like I was into wrestling, and wrestling was, especially in the mid 90s, even though I have a lot of nostalgia for that too. But by any stretch of the imagination, it was a little cringy, and ECW was just seemed a lot cooler, a lot more real. And kind of my passions kind of like colliding together. So it was, I definitely loved it, and I still love it today.
But around what year did you start watching ECW?
So I first started I started actually reading about ECW before I started watching ECW. So like I was avidly into, WWF and WCW, and I would get the bill after the after mags, as they're called, PWI and the Wrestler and that type of thing. And that they started getting coverage in probably 94, 95. And so I was basically getting every single issue. I remember just loving going to the grocery store, like the local magazine stand, and picking up the new issue of PWI. And I just remember reading and seeing these pictures of just, bloodied, ECW wrestlers, and just like wanting to see it so bad. And so I first got to see it in probably about 96. And that's definitely the era that I'm most passionate about, and that I have the most fondness for, is that 95, 96 era, because I think that's the peak of ECW. Creatively, all the awesome talents that came through, I think they were really building their identity at that point. So around 96 was when I first, Hardcore TV kind of made it to my area, and I first got to see it. So
with that said, with the awesome talent, do you have a favorite ECW wrestler?
Absolutely. As anybody that follows my page will know, my favorite wrestler far and away is Raven. Raven, once again, talking about being a rock and a metal guy, and to have a professional wrestler that was literally the embodiment of it. I believe he described himself as the Kurt Cobain of professional wrestling. And 92, 93, I didn't go to school not wearing a Kurt Cobain shirt. So to have a wrestler that looked like I looked like, and looked like the band member of the bands that I love too, was just like the absolute coolest. And honestly, I was an angsty teen, a little bit of an angsty adult too. So Raven was just like the embodiment of cool to me. And I still contend he's one of that era of like probably 95 to 97, I think, is probably the coolest wrestler that I can think of. So yeah, definitely Raven far and away.
So is there a specific match that really brought you in?
Definitely the build up to the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 6. That was what turned me on to pro wrestling. But
is there types of ECW items that you like to gravitate towards?
Yeah, so I think the things, obviously I love tees. The more rare, the better. But for me, the things that I really like the most are just the really rare, obscure, and odd items. So for me, stuff like I actually recently got some original contracts. So I got a wrestler's original contract. I got their merch contract. I got a It's basically just a random piece of paper that explains to ECW wrestlers that were traveling across the border into Canada, specifically the directions of where they needed to go. So I love that type of stuff. It's just like, it's like a moment in time type of thing. Like, obviously, you know, t-shirts can be rare, but I mean, most of them were mass produced, but things like that are just like one in a million. So I love collecting that type of stuff, just really rare, obscure and odd things. And yeah, just showing that type of stuff off. So that'd definitely be the stuff that I gravitate towards the most. My favorite item far and away is my franchise Shane Douglas from '96 from the return. I have that jacket. That kind of turned me on to ring worn stuff. I was always kind of like, I don't know that I want to like delve into that area, but that's something that I really, really enjoy. Another thing that I really dig a lot that I have is for years and years, I wanted to have, there's a Raven WCW birthday card. And I just thought it was the oddest piece of merch. Like, what kid wanted a Raven birthday card? And then I realized I wanted that card and I never got it. So I finally actually got one, and I got in touch with Raven, and I actually sent that card to him and had him sign that card to me in character, and then sent it back to me, and I got it around my birthday. So I thought that was like super cool. I got that a couple years ago, and that's something that I always thought was really rad. For tees though, definitely the Raven stuff still. I know we talked a little bit about the WCW, the flock shirt. That was one that there was a time where I fell out of pro wrestling. I got rid of all of my stuff, and that was a shirt that I always kept because I always just thought it was really, really cool, and it didn't scream pro wrestling when I was kind of like, you know, trying to distance myself because I was too cool for school type of thing. Obviously not anymore, but yeah, that's definitely one that I really dig. The original Raven ECW shirt with the kind of white cartoon silhouette of him doing the crucifix. That's one that I really dig. And then I think the 95, 96 ECW, like the red and black stuff, I think those are just like very, very iconic. You know, the one with the blood drip on the side, I think is just super rad. And then even the purple and red era stuff too, I think is really cool as well. I think any of the logo stuff, I really think that ECW was cool in that, I mean, yeah, you had WWF logo tees and you had WCW logo tees, but really it gravitated more towards the wrestlers. And I think in ECW, they really made the promotion the biggest star. It was really, I think, the first promotion that really did that. And so the logo tees were the ones that really always seemed to blow up. And so, yeah, the logo stuff, I always love that. So.
Yeah, you never really hear chants of WWF or WCW.
I don't think that you will ever be hearing that. So yeah, it's I thought that was always cool, and it really made sense for them to do that because they had this constant, you know, like their upper mid card and their main event. Those guys were, you know, constantly cycling out and leaving and going to WCW, going to WWF. And if those guys weren't the biggest stars, you know, anymore, and they were gone, it's like ECW could bring new people in and build up new people. And I mean, that was Paulie's absolute brilliance. And I think that's the reason why when you talk about, you know, the Mount Rushmore of ECW, I think is one of the hardest promotions to do that for. Like, I've asked that question on my page multiple times, and it's so interesting for me to see all these different people have, you know, 4 different people, because you got so many people that could be considered to be the biggest stars of ECW. And that, I think that is really just amazing for a company that was only around, you know, 7 years.
And I mean, to your point of replacing talent, on my Mount Rushmore of ECW, I don't know if it's wrestlers exclusively, but I would put Paul Heyman and Joey Styles, because to me, that's like, when I first got into it in '97, that's what pulled me in, was Joey Styles and Paul Heyman, who I was familiar with from before. I wasn't familiar with all these wrestlers. I was familiar with Paul Heyman from watching WCW.
Yeah,
and
it's hard not to put Paulie on there. And I think another person that really gets forgotten and that I think that could be in contention for being on that is Todd Gordon too. Todd Gordon really gets forgotten, especially because he left as ECW was like, you know, on the upward. But I mean, without Todd Gordon, ECW wouldn't exist. So I think he's another one that really has to be in contention. But I mean, you got guys like the Sandman, you got Sabu, you got Raven, you got Terry Funk. You got the Dudleys. I mean, there's so many guys that you could say, should be on that list. And I think that really speaks volumes to Paul's ability to be able to build people up. So I think he did just an absolutely incredible job that, man, I haven't seen a promotion do again. So
who is on your Mount Rushmore?
Oh, man, so it's very, very difficult. Whenever I do mine, people are always shocked because my favorite wrestler is Raven, and so they expect Raven to be on my list, but he's actually not on my Mount Rushmore, just because he was there a shorter amount of time and because he was also a star elsewhere. I think for me, I think Sabu has to be on that list. I think Sabu just screams ECW. I think the Sandman has to be on the list. I think Tommy Dreamer has to be on the list. And man, maybe Terry Funk.
So of all the items that you do own, what would you consider to be your holy grail?
As I mentioned before, that I own currently, I think my holy grail would probably be two things. I think I have 2 Raven ring-worn shirts. Those are definitely on the list. I think my franchise Shane Douglas jacket has to be on that list. Actually, another item that I don't know that I would consider it a grail, but it's one of my favorite items is, as I said, 95, 96, I love that era. And I have a really, really, really strong affinity for the ECW World Heavyweight title from that era. I think it's pitch perfect for what ECW was back then. It was beat to hell. The side plates were constantly falling off it. They would literally just slap enamel paint on this thing. They put jewels that they, probably bought from, the Michaels or whatever it was. So I think it's so pitch perfect. And so I actually got a belt that a buddy of mine had kind of redone the art for and had made. And I basically kind of tore that thing apart, just like beat the hell out of the leather, did a new backing on it. I painted it. I got jewels that matched the original ones, and then I, promptly took and, knocked them off of it. And so, yeah, that's another one that I absolutely love. And it's one of my favorite things in my collection because Conrad Thompson, unfortunately, owns the original, and that would definitely be one that I would just absolutely love to own. But I'll have to settle for this one. So that's another one that's, one of the cornerstone pieces in my collection for sure. So.
Fucking Conrad. What is the holy grail that you do not own that you strive to eventually get one day?
I think I have 3 things in particular. And actually, sadly, my buddy Oscar, who is kind of my collecting buddy, actually just obtained a second thing, and he had my first item. So my 3 items are basically an original ECW banner. I would love to have one of the ones that hung behind Joey Styles with the logo, but I would take a pay-per-view banner as well. An ECW Varsity Jacket. I have a couple ECW jackets. I recently got a New Jack, kind of like a windbreaker. That's pretty cool that New Jack threatened to stab me over and take back. I think he was joking. Not sure. But yeah, I would say ECW Varsity Jacket, the red, the Letterman kind of thing with the leather sleeves. And then the other thing that I really, really would love to have is I would love to have a Raven ring-worn band shirt from, the 95, 96, 97 era. If I could get that Melvins or that Suicidal Tendencies, I can't tell you how many of those bands that I started listening to because I saw Raven wearing that shirt down to the ring. And actually funny, I met Raven last year, and I got an original version of that Melvin shirt, and I was wearing it, and I'd actually found out that he actually did not and never listened to the Melvins. My buddy Jeremiah actually worked at a record store back in the day, and he would actually feed these shirts to Raven. He would bring them to the arena. And that's where Raven would get these shirts. And so I knew that he actually didn't listen to them. So he saw the shirt and he was like, "Oh, the Melvins, never listened to them." And I'm like, "Oh, I heard."
That's like telling me Santa Claus is real. I don't.
Sorry. You can edit that out if you want.
It's all good. So outside of ECW, is there anything else that you like to collect?
Yeah, so actually, I have a couple other collections. I got a whole finished basement with my collection, and ECW is actually surprisingly, well, it's blown up, and it's definitely got a bigger portion of it now. But yeah, I collect vinyl. As I mentioned, I'm a huge music and metal guy, so I got a metal collection, poster, music collection, vinyl collection, and then also I'm a huge cinema and horror fan. So I have a pretty hefty horror collection, DVD, Blu-ray, that type of thing. and lots and lots of movie posters and stuff. So really my whole life, music, movies, and wrestling have really been like the three things that I have just like gravitated towards. So yeah, I collect that stuff as well.
So in addition to all the vintage stuff and ring-worn things that you've collected over the years, I know that you do make some of your own original ECW stuff. Do you want to talk about that?
As I said, I'm a metal guy, and so I was making a battle jacket, and I wanted to make a battle jacket, but I wanted it to be all ECW stuff. And so I had someone make ECW patches for this thing, and I started showing it off, and people really wanted to get these patches. So I started making some more patches. And then I wanted to get some pins for it. I wanted to do a Raven and a Sandman based off of those original 2 ECW shirts. And so I made some pins, and you can't just buy one pin. So, I got multiple pins, and people ate those up. And then I talked with my buddy Cobra Clutch, and we decided to work on a shirt together. So we did the Salvation 96 shirt, which people liked. And so I just kind of, people were just digging it. And I wanted to put out cool stuff that I liked and I would want, and to commemorate things that I really, events I really enjoyed, and work with artists that I really respected. And I can't tell you how cool it's been to work with all the artists that I work with, to have something in my head and to be able to bring it to someone and just have them just like absolutely blow it away. El Cheapo Grosso just recently did that I just dropped my November to Remember 1995. Which is my biggest release, and people are just absolutely blown away. They're loving it, and I'm just so stoked on it. I'm so happy to be putting out cool stuff that people like and enjoy, and I love doing it. So expect more for sure. Yeah, so I have a Big Cartel store, which is extremecollector.bigcartel.com. So you can get all the stuff there.
Having conversations with people like you, people like Oscar, people like Classic Portland Wrestling, you're the guys who are really teaching people about ultra-specific regional wrestling. And it's really great to see what you're doing and carrying on the legacy. And, for a lot of people who don't know much about ECW, you're doing an incredible job of just showcasing everything that company was about.
And one of the coolest things about it has been, I forget as I get older, people now that, ECW has been gone for 20 plus years. So I have tons of people that are, 16, 17, 18, that, will DM me and, ask me questions and stuff. And it's really cool to talk to people that weren't even around back then. But ECW still has this kind of mythical kind of feeling to it. So yeah, I really enjoy doing it.
And I really hope that you can get those items that you're looking for. If anyone who is watching does have those items, Ray, what is the best way to contact you to discuss the sale of those items?
Definitely. I spend most of my time on Instagram, so definitely hit me up on Instagram. So it's at @the_extreme_collector. And also, if you own at Extreme Collector, please hit me up because I want to get. I want that.
Someone called me out for commenting on this girl's post. She owns at AEW. And I tried to buy it because I said, check DMs. And I think they were calling me out because I was trying to hit on her, but I was trying to buy AEW before they got it. And they don't even have it. She has it. She just doesn't respond to my DMs. At AEW, if you see this, please tell me that. At AEW. All right. Ray, thank you so much. I hope we can catch up soon, and good luck with the collecting.
Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it.
All right, next up we have Oscar. He's one of the biggest ECW collectors on the planet. Wait till you see his ECW t-shirt collection. I'm a huge fan of anyone who goes after very specific categories in their collections. On past episode, I had Classic Portland Wrestling, love interviewing the toy people. So when I get to interview you, who's definitely one of, if not the greatest ECW collectors in the world, it's an honor for me to talk to you and definitely learn a lot throughout the conversation. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. I love the show, man. Like when I'm at work, that's all I watch.
Thank you. Don't get in too much trouble watching the show. Yeah, so basically, a little background. I'm from Los Angeles. I got into ECW super late. I started watching in like 1997. This was the only shirt that I own from my original watching of ECW. So, you know, again, I'm not like a super ECW nerd like a lot of people. So when I get to talk to someone like you, I'm excited to learn. I know through our conversations on Instagram, I've learned quite a bit, and I'm finding new items by the day because of accounts like you. When did you start watching wrestling?
I remember when I was like, I can't remember the exact age, but I think I was 11, 12. I remember my cousin having a VHS tape up in his closet that his mom didn't let him watch. And I took it anyways, and I watched it. And it was the Warrior versus Rick Rude steel cage match that was bloody. So I understood why he couldn't watch it. So he gave it to me. And that was basically the moment that I got hooked.
Was that SummerSlam 90?
I believe so. Yeah, it was one of the very early 90s SummerSlams.
Right. Okay.
I mean, and I'm Mexican, so I grew up watching lucha, but like I watched it. You know, I had a couple uncles who actually were luchadors, so I knew about it. I watched it, but I didn't really get into it till that moment.
When did you start watching ECW specifically?
So this one's kind of funny. So remember when they used to have their commercials on those pay-per-view channels like Order Now or anything like that? I would always watch those because I couldn't order the WWF ones because they were like $40, $50. So I remember one commercial popped up and it was ECW and it was Jenna Jameson dancing around.
Mm-hmm.
And the price was like $25 or something like that. But that made me basically like look at it as like wrestling's like real. Like this is real.
Yeah.
And that was my introduction to ECW.
Yeah, I have a very, I guess, similar introduction to it. I would see it as like, it was just on the pay-per-view channel. It would be sprinkled in, like, you know, they'd have previews for movies like Milk Money and, you know, like True Lies and all that. And then you'd see ECW, and it was so racy and crazy, and the music was amazing. You're like, what is this thing?
Oh yeah, it was completely different than when everything else that was out. So it was drawn to it right away, like the music you listen to, you know, girls, wrestling, blood.
In terms of collecting the merchandise, when did you really get into that?
So funny enough, I'm a noob at this. Like I only got into it about 2 years ago. I ran into Chaz at a swap meet here in Vegas, and he's the guy who runs Top Shelf, and he asked me for wrestling shirts, and he completely blew my mind, and he showed me this world that I didn't know that existed. And I said, okay, I finally got a good job and I can afford this. And then so I jumped into it. So he gave me the lowdown on everything. And I remember seeing your page, and that blew my mind on prices. I was like, oh, I'll go to eBay, get these things for $10, $20, $30. And I was so off. But that was basically how I started.
In terms of ECW, do you have a favorite ECW wrestler?
Everybody had their own little unique thing about them. I like the tag teams a lot because the tag teams were always like crazy matches. You know, they didn't follow the whole like, oh, you must tag your wrestler. It was just insanity. So more so, I was a big fan of like, you know, the Pit Bulls and the Public Enemy and the Eliminators, like just insane matches. Even like when Roadkill and Doring were tag teamed up, BWO, all those matches were always wild because they always led to New Jack coming out and just destroying everybody.
Yeah. I was also a big fan of the tag teams. I loved the Dudley Boys, and also loved Sabu and Rob Van Dam.
The Dudleys were like the gods of ECW. They were the most entertaining like team, and they were just like how vulgar they were. It was just funny. It was entertaining.
Yeah, going back and watching a lot of the Bubba Ray promos is some of the craziest shit I've ever heard in wrestling.
Oh yeah, there's no way he could get away with that stuff now. And I understand why the WWE like edited it so much. But yeah, that's insane. I mean, he caused riots. So
I know you from Instagram, but do you want to tell everyone the types of items that you like to collect?
I like to try to strictly just stay onto the ECW merch and mainly the t-shirts, because there's so many little off products that they had, and you know, like Extreme Collector has everything. So when I saw his collection, I was like, you know what, I'm not even gonna attempt that. I'm gonna do the t-shirts. And I come from a background of screen printing and graphic design that's my passion. So I'm like, I'm gonna just stick to t-shirts, basically the clothing merchandise. And that's what I could just stick to right there. Little things here and there like VHS tapes, but mainly just clothes. That's where I drop most of my money on.
Yeah, and they have some of my favorite designs too, whether it's something that Taz did or something that Haru did. I was such a fan of Haru and this shirt and some of the other stuff he was making in like the 97, 98 zone that he designed my first logo. And he just designed it and sent it to me. And I'm like, this isn't done. I need it to say C Haru next to it for it to be complete. And luckily enough, he was okay with that. So the first wrestling. So
that's awesome. I remember contacting you about that.
Yeah.
I remember messaging you.
One of the first cool things I got to do with wrestling. Yeah. So I really want to get into your collection. So do you want to get into like your top 5 and go through them in detail?
Yeah, definitely. I took a couple out of where I have them stored to kind of show. Like this is one of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
It's what they say was the first ECW like Sabu shirt, even though he already had some. They kind of build it. Yeah. It's got like that little puff ink, so it's like, you know, and it's pretty clean. I mean, this is the one that's spelled correctly, because you've seen the other one, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I've always wondered if Taz did that on purpose.
Yeah.
I know they didn't like each other's time, but yeah, this is one of my favorites. I found this here in Vegas just going to that one dude, Slobby, you know, Slobby Robbie? Mm-hmm. He had a shop here in Vegas, and my buddy walked in and they had it. The other one is one of my favorite tag teams.
Oh yeah.
The Eliminators. These are really hard to find, and there's so many variations of them.
Yes, and I was fortunate enough to find one of the hats.
You found a hat? Damn. Yeah, I've been looking for that hat. I've only seen pictures of it.
Yeah, that's an incredible shirt, and you know, to have that and then realize what Saturn did in the next year, and then even getting into like WWF and you know, making an impact there. This is an incredible item.
It comes from a personal collection.
Wow. Yeah, that was a little too racy for me to wear in public, so I had to. One of the few items that I had in my personal collection that I was okay with selling, and I'm happy that it went to you. I didn't want to just put it out there for sale and some random get it. I wanted it to go somewhere where, you know, the collector would really, really appreciate it.
It was basically like when they were doing that whole angle where Beulah and Kimona were like cheating on Tommy, I guess. So they made the Menage Extreme the three-way hardcore dance.
Yeah, and I've only seen that shirt a couple times, so just a really incredible item.
Yeah, I had to have that. I mean, this is like the only Public Enemy t-shirt I think there was out in ECW. I don't think I ever saw another one.
I haven't seen many. I know there's so many weird ones in like 94 to like early 96 that like pop up, and I didn't know they, you know, like there's gangster shirts and there's weird ones like my Austin one that you don't really know exist because they weren't sold all over the place. Yeah. So I'm fortunate enough to have one. I know for a lot of the people who either love the Dudleys or love ECW, this is up there in the Holy Grail territory.
They didn't really sell them to like the general public. Like there's more out there that belong to the Dudleys than there were for like, I guess, just fans. Mm-hmm. So like this one, I keep looking at it, and I even spoke to Sign Guy Dudley and I sent him pictures, and you could see a couple of stains in it that I can't figure out exactly what it is. You say it's blood or something. And Sign Guy said that belonged to Bubba, you know, and Bubba would be the only one to know. But if Sign Guy says it, he was right next to him, he would know. because these don't have the ECW tag on them. They just have the little registered symbol, and these were the ones they wore to the ring that I got on.
Yeah, I think I have that color variation. I think mine was spikes because it's an XL. So like it's still a little big, but it kind of fits me. But there's holes. Like you tell someone like tugged at his neck on the back.
Oh.
It's like real deal ring worn. And it's, to me, there's a lot of ECW items that I would consider up there in like holy grail status. I think that the Dudley Tie-Dyes are up there, kind of similar to what we're seeing with some of the higher end all over prints in the WWF, where there are a certain amount of these floating around, but everyone wants them. And do you want to tell everyone who's watching like kind of what these things go for?
Well, I had 3. Just by luck, sometimes I have people who contact me and say, hey, do you want this? And I say sure, or I'll just be hunting all the time on eBay and I'll see one pop up and I'll just buy it instantly because I know these aren't really around that much. So I just sold one recently for about $1,100, and I have this one I'm wearing. Somebody's making me offers, so they're definitely climbing up there from what they were about a year ago. A year ago, I would say I was seeing them for $200 to $300, and now $500, and now up to $1,100. So it's pretty wild, like how quick these tees are climbing.
Yeah,
I mean, a Hardcore Heaven just sold yesterday for $360.
I remember this Dudley Boy Tie-Dye. It was one of the first items that I saw sell, and I was truly blown away by the price that it sold for. I think it was $700. And I think at that point, the most I'd ever seen a wrestling shirt sell for was like $500 or $600. One of which my friend told me was the Red Rooster shirt, which is one of the rarest WWF catalog items. So to see that go for more than the Red Rooster was shocking to me. But you can definitely tell that the ECW collectors are hardcore, no pun intended, and are willing to pay good money for the good stuff. I've been told from a few ECW collectors that Tommy Dreamer has the biggest ECW collection.
I know he's got all the banners.
Supposedly he held on to one of everything.
Jeez. Right now is the time to sell them.
Is it? We don't know.
Yeah, I know. It's climbing.
Next question. Where do you see the market going?
Honestly, it's kind of hard to tell right now because a year ago to 6 months ago to now, it's just climbing. Mm-hmm. So right now is like the highest point, basically, like vintage wear is going. It's just going to keep going up. I see the prices that you give on people's like their collection, and to hear that you can buy a house based off your collection is insane to me. I started this just for fun, not even looking at it like, oh, this is going to be worth $1,000 in a year. I was just looking at it as like, I want to put this up on my wall or in my closet and say I have it. So it's wild to me to just see Dudley Boy shirts or AOPs and all these shirts going for over $1,000. Like, it's crazy to me. Fun.
I feel like by the day, if you buy something and it seems like it's a little expensive, 3 months down the line, it's like you got a bargain.
Oh yeah, definitely. When I bought this Dudley Boy shirt off of you, I can't remember exactly how much. I think it was in the 300 range. I remember sending it over and sitting at my desk and going, what am I doing? Like, I can't believe I just did this. And now, and I've heard the other collectors on your video say this, is once you make that big spend, it's so easy to do it again. And that's kind of how it happens, but it's paying off. So I'll sit there for that 1 second and kind of be like, damn, I just spent $300 to $500 on this. And next thing you know, price is just climbing and climbing. So doesn't feel that bad afterwards. And just, I'm seeing Toy Story shirts selling for thousands of dollars. So it's wrestling market is that little, like, not a lot of eyes are on it right now, and a lot more people and bigger pages are starting to kind of dabble in it.
Yeah, I think that we're kind of in the early stages with wrestling. We're nowhere near the prices of, like you said, Disney, rap tees, a lot of older music stuff. There's so many Nirvana shirts out there, and they still go for $500 to $3,000 depending on which one. So I know the ECW stuff's rarer. I know that the fans are really into the product, so I don't see the prices of any of these things going down anytime soon.
No.
All right, so with that said, do you want to get into your holy grail of your ECW collection?
Yeah. This is something I recently just got, and I know a lot of people know about this, and some of them, have it out there. There isn't a lot of these made because Pillman sold them directly from his trunk, and he wasn't there long enough to really get some official merch. So this one's like real special to me, and not just because like it's Pillman, but he signed it.
Oh,
Somewhere
nice.
on here. Yeah, so like when I bought it, I didn't realize he had signed it, so that's awesome. And I'd been after this one for a minute,
Yeah.
but the price was so expensive, and I said, you know what, if I don't get it now, I don't know when I'll be able to get it with the way things are going.
And I personally am not big on signatures on shirts, but that item, because he, unfortunately passed away, I can kind of envision how that autograph happened where, a fan was at the show, loves Brian Pillman, gets it signed. That's a really cool story. A lot of the shirts you see that are signed now are, like a guy gets a Stone Cold shirt or a Hulk Hogan shirt and goes and meets him at like a fan fest, gets the autograph, and that's the autograph that you see on the shirt. That tells a wonderful story. Really cool moment in history in the mid 90s. So for you to have that is a really, really, really incredible item.
Oh yeah, I'm lucky, that it came, because I know there's a lot of them out there that don't have. I mean, they probably none of them have a signature. So, he should have. I wish he was around a lot longer because I know he had a lot to offer.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is definitely one of my. I would say my grail, just because he signed it.
That's really, really cool. So, I know that you have a very wide range of different shirts that you own, and behind you, you have an incredible banner. What is your holy grail that you're still looking for?
So I have a list, and it seems like that list grows every couple of months with a shirt I've never seen. It feels like Funko Pops type thing, like it's endless. And I know they weren't there. There is an end, but there's little things that keep popping up. So right now I'm looking for WrestlePalooza, and I've only seen it once, and this was years ago. There's a couple other Eliminator tees that I'm looking for. Some very early gangstas and stuff like that. But yeah, there's some shirts, and I have a list on my page, and they can check it out. But I'm still looking for that. But WrestlePalooza right now is top of my list.
That's a great shirt. I love the event shirts. I mean, especially if you have an attachment to that one, and it sounds like that's kind of like when you started getting into watching the pay-per-views. I'm sure you have a great connection to that, and I hope you get it. For those of you who are watching, Oscar, do you want to tell them the best way to get in touch with you? If someone
Yep. Or on Instagram at strictly ECW Collect. So yeah, if you have anything that's on my list that I need, especially WrestlePalooza, let me know. I know there's like another Joey Styles shirt that I'm looking for that I didn't even know he had his own shirt. Things like that keep popping up,
And it's one of those things, we've talked about it on past episodes where, you'll get a certain point in collecting and there is some jealousy between people and their collections, and walking that fine line of showcasing what you have and, trying to manage the people who are upset that you're posting your personal collection. But then to me, when I see people like you post personals or, vintage wrestling tees or Cocoa Beef Wear, whatever it is, that's where I learn about shirts. Okay. I've been doing this just about 5 years, and I've been collecting quite a while. I learn about a new shirt like every week. And if people aren't posting their personal collections, it's very hard to find out about these items.
Oh yeah, and a lot of them know. And I got to give all credit to Ray Extreme Collector, because I saw him post on your page, or you were doing the posting of like people's collection, and I contacted him, and that's how I started. I bought a big like lot of shirts off of him, and he completely like blew my mind on information and everything. So he's my go-to guy on helping me find information. So I got to give him a lot of props on that because he really helped me.
I think I'm due to do that again because I've heard similar stories from a lot of people where, you know, I'm fortunate enough to have a great network, and showcasing a lot of these people is how a lot of people get in touch. I mean, even this episode, I'm hoping that the right eyes see this episode so that you can come across those items that you're looking for. And it's people like you that we, you know, continually learn from. So thank you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the fact that you post as often as you do and teach us. So
yeah,
thank you so
definitely,
much.
man. I learned a lot from you too. So you really like taught me pricing and, you know, how to get these items. So I appreciate it.
Don't sell yourself short. There's only a finite amount of these things.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, man. Thank you.
Great talking to you.